Hello and welcome to Tech Meets Wisdom. Today I am honored to have a very special guest with us. His name is Mr. Rishi Kumar, who is running for Congress to represent the Silicon Valley in Washington, D.C. Stay tuned for more. So, Mr. Rishi Kumar, it's such an honor to have you on the show with us. Welcome.
Thank you, Geeta. It's a pleasure to be here. Very happy to be here.
Yeah, you wear so many hats, and now you've been a Saratoga councilman, and now you're running for Congress. How did all this start? This is really an amazing journey.
Yeah, I did not know, it was leading up to this, but I was enjoying doing everything I do. I work in the high tech. I still work in the high tech, but community service has become a big passion for me. And I'm an activist at heart. I always seek to address some of the challenges of the community. And that's how I got started, just doing little things in the community. And I realized that I was really enjoying it. It was making me a much more happier person. And I was working for IBM in those days. And it was a pretty good high pressure job. But what I realized was that the community passion that I was bringing in Saratoga was really very energizing to me, and a lot of people were appreciating the work that I was doing. So initially, yeah.
Well, I mean, when you ran for council member, you had won. I read that you had won by like a landslide, or there was so much more than before. That shows a lot about how much people love you, and I think it's because you're so energetic. Do you eat something special? Where do you get your energy from? Because most people, I mean, you're in the high tech. I mean, experience is a nexus of like high tech, public, private, nonprofit, policy making, and worldly affairs, worldly politics, and then now this here. So you wear a lot of hats. That takes something. So how do you manage and juggle all these things?
The common thread in all this, this is what people in Saratoga ask me, when do you sleep, where do you find the time, where do you find the energy? But we have taken on quite a few things on our plate today. But the common thread is that we really enjoy doing what we do, and it has sort of redefined my life, and specifically with respect to being of help, addressing some of the challenges and impacting them and applying the Silicon Valley high-tech framework of innovating just a tad to see how we can make it better.
Do you think that that the Silicon Valley is represented in Washington at this time?
Well, we all saw the Zuckerberg hearing, and there are quite a few videos that have been made around that. So I think we do have some very talented folks in DC with a wide variety of skill sets, a lot of lawyers who are in Congress.
Well, right now there's so many challenges also right in the Silicon Valley. I mean, what do you see, how do you see them? Like the employment is, there's so many people employed, but the housing issues, and there's so many different issues that we have. So what is your take? I mean, I won't ask you anything specific, but where would you like to share with our viewers and our audience to help us understand about how you take on the housing issue?
Yep. So one of the challenge, Geeta, is that folks are leaving Silicon Valley. The net rate of defection is about 165 people a month from Silicon Valley. And it's not a very well-known fact, but this is the 2017 data. And if you look at 2016, that was about 45 people, a net 45 people were exiting Silicon Valley. And 2018 data, we don't have that yet. But it's a problem, and it's because there are significant quality of life impacts. You could have, when I used to work for IBM, my wife used to work for Cisco back in those days, I would say that, hey, both of us here live in Silicon Valley, but we are below the poverty line because it's so expensive. I mean,
Yes.
homes in Saratoga are super expensive. A lot of your money goes into the mortgage. A lot of it goes into healthcare for school programs and all that kind of stuff.
Yes, it's
So
very
that's
difficult for many parents. It's very difficult to keep your kids in school. And, my daughter's just graduating high school, and we were at the one of the last talks that they were giving to the parents about going to college. And just looking at the stress on everybody's face was enough to understand, it's really going on in our community right now. So with that, what do you see that you can take and perhaps make a proposal on, or what is your take on that?
So, if you look at the quality of life challenges that we have in Silicon Valley, and I'll lay it out in 3 different components. One is specific to very local challenges that we're all dealing. The second is more of a regional problem, and the third is more of a national issue. There are many national issues that are actually impacting Silicon Valley here. But let's talk about the first one, which is
Yes.
which is crime. I think we have seen growth in crime across the board in every single city of Silicon Valley. And I took up that challenge as a council member and focused very heavily 2 years, 100 neighborhood meetings, neighborhood watch programs, putting cameras, working with neighborhood leaders. And we basically dropped crime 47%. But not
Wow.
every community is lucky, because if you look at the crime stats, the burglaries have gone up. And now what has happened is there are a lot more car break-ins that are happening. It used to happen in huge numbers in San Francisco. Now we see it's happening here in Silicon Valley as well. So that's problem number one. Secondly, when you look at a regional issue that we have is with respect to housing and transportation. And we always hear that, oh, there is homelessness, we have a housing crunch. So it looks like the data, basically we are building 1 housing unit for every 5 jobs we are creating. And that's
Yes.
creating a lot of issues. Employers have difficulty in finding talents.
I was listening to Jackie Spears. She was at a talk, and she mentioned that there's about 89,000 jobs being created in the next 2 years or something. And then looking at the housing, it's like the balance just is not there.
Yes, and that's a problem, because young families are not able to survive here. They are leaving Silicon Valley, and so employers are finding it difficult to fulfill those jobs. And so essentially what's going on is companies are moving out of Silicon Valley. They're moving to Austin, they're moving to Seattle. And my approach on this is that housing is a problem, but you got to build the infrastructure around it.
Absolutely.
And we are all stuck in traffic, and our commute times have gone 2x, 3x. I commute from Saratoga to Santa Clara, and it could take me, it's a 15, 16-minute commute, but it can take me about 45 minutes.
Absolutely.
And that's a huge problem. So my approach on that is to see how we can spread the housing out to other communities of building a mega Silicon Valley that includes Stockton, that includes Modesto, and spreading the housing out, spreading the jobs, creating economic wealth, spreading that wealth out. And that's how we can build a bigger Silicon Valley and grow the economy of California. So that's problem number 2. And the third issue, which is more of a national issue, and there are many of them, but I'll pick one, which is the healthcare challenge. And we
Yes,
see that the drug
absolutely.
prices have gone up significantly. The price of insulin has gone up 1,000% in 20 years. There are kids who are dying of lack of insulin or the affordability around that. And it's become a big problem. And we have to innovate and figure out different approaches to address these types of challenges. So those are areas that I would love to see how we can focus upon.
Yeah, that's a huge, it's kind of a dream in a way, because it's not, realistically, if you think about all these things, it's like, how is it possible? I mean, I get dizzy thinking about it. I mean, you're running for Congress to go and represent the people and to speak about this thing. So this is definitely something that hits home for many people. I know for sure. I'm a mom. I have a daughter in school. It's like going through the whole, and I have my own business too. So that's another way to look at all of this, right? And I'm not working in the Silicon Valley, but also I had a wellness center, and because they increased the rent so much, then they demolished the building, and so many entrepreneurs, they can't afford to pay rent in the cities. That's also a concern. So there's all these different economic type of areas that we need to address and look at. And yeah, but I mean, just to ask you something else, I'm really curious to know, like, how did you decide at a young age that you wanted to get into Congress, or I mean, you wanted to get to become a public servant? Like, how did you even come to this? How did you decide?
Well, it was never an aspiration. It was not like back in my high school or college days, I was a student leader, That wasn't really who I was. And I was just a geek, mechanical engineering, and that's what I did. But, as an activist, people started asking me, Rishi, what you going to do? You'll run for school board, you'll run for city council? And I was like, where is this coming from? Why are they asking me that question? And slowly and gradually, I felt that if you have a platform, you can get a lot more things done.
Yes.
So that's the reason why we ran for city council, and we impacted two of the big challenges of our community that led to that, the vote count in the last election. We got the most votes in 60 years of Saratoga. And now we are expanding that platform. And why do we do that? Someone asked me the other day, Rishi, why are you running for Congress? And just like giving me a very probing look to see, I really need to understand your answer. And I said, very simple. I just want to help people and make our community stronger, better. And that's the reason why I'm running.
And that's a very human answer, because really if we make promises and we say that we can create this and create that, and really it's a voice. I think people are looking for a voice that can really represent who we are and what our struggles are, and to take it to a national level, to have some more insight, have some more ways or support around how can we work through this crisis that we're going through right now. Because there are a lot of people that I know myself too, I mean, in the area that I've left, but I didn't know the statistics that you gave earlier of the number of families leaving the Silicon Valley, and that's something to think about. I mean, that just kind of makes me really think, about where are we going next? Because now my daughter's out of high school, and one of the things was that to live in the district and to put your child through the school, and I'm also kind of in that same boat, I'm thinking, am I going to stay in Palo Alto to further all of my businesses here, and everything else is here for me. So, yeah, but how's your family? You have two sons, and your wife. How are they dealing with all of this, that you're running for office, and what's their take on all of this?
Our boys are, we have a son who's a freshman in University of Washington, and we have our older son who just graduated from UCLA, and they both love to code, and so they are involved with the campaign. They are actually coding and helping out with different areas. They don't like going door to door and the heavy duty campaigning that we have to do, but they are very happy. We give them a product specs and they roll it out. So it's actually very helpful to have them.
Oh, that's wonderful. So how does that work? So product specs for
the campaign.
For the campaign.
Yeah.
That's.
So there are quite a few that when we wear the Silicon Valley hat and you look at running a political campaign, you are basically looking to make it cheaper, faster, better.
Sure. Yeah.
And so we are constantly applying that, and we are rolling out approaches to make it easier for us to conduct those types of campaigns.
Well, that's a great model to have. You bring the millennial minds to work.
Yeah.
And that's also another concern, the millennials and being in the Silicon Valley, like their approach to working and their ethics and the way they run the show. And that's the forefront of the next generation of how technology and communications and all this moves forward. I mean, they're a different way of approaching how the older generation, I should say older, but the other generation, how they ran business is very different from the way millennials do work. And so
the other older generation, right?
Yeah, the other older generation, not us.
Yeah.
But it is very interesting because the new minds, the fresh minds, I mean, we look at that to see how, the innovation and all this, the wonderful things they're doing for sustainability and in taking care of our planet, basically. So what's your take on that? I mean, do you have an approach to how working with the youth? I know you've done some work around that, so tell us about that.
Yeah, I run a lot of STEM programs for the youth of our community. We run an entrepreneurship boot camp, Lego Robotics, because it's all about empowerment. We run debate academy just to improve. We also run an etiquette program. How do you communicate? How do you sit down? How do you talk? How do you eat? So
Really?
those are types of programs that we run through a nonprofit in Saratoga. But I'll tell you, from when you look at the Silicon Valley, the culture that is established here, I don't think so. We are truly leveraging that in the world of politics. It's almost like apples and oranges, and it's really not. There is an intersect, and that's exactly what I did in my first term on the Saratoga City Council. I called it applying the high-tech framework to make it cheaper, faster, better for my community, and it resonated big time with Saratoga, and the congressional district that we have. District 18, which is right next to Ro Khanna's district. Saratoga is a microcosm of the congressional district because the people have similar aspirations, they have similar backgrounds. It's the most affluent congressional district in all of America, and we believe we have a pretty good story in terms of how we can innovate, how we can apply the high-tech framework of Silicon Valley and make America better. So that's the story that will be playing out as we run through this campaign.
Well, Silicon Valley itself is a very special place, and that's exciting if we can do that across, because when you go to different parts of even California, you don't see what Silicon Valley has. So to see that model being expanded, what do you think is the first approach to that?
Well, I think we have to do data-driven government, in terms of, for example, we might have immigration issues, but how are we able to pool all the data to figure out, what's working, what's not working? We look at, we have folks crossing the border, coming into the country, how many of them are crossing, what kind of programs can we launch to turn some of the illegal activities into sort of legitimate programs that we can offer? How can we track the inflow of immigrants? How can we track the success or some of the issues with the H-1B programs, for example? How can we bolster that, make it better? It's all data-driven government, and I truly believe that Silicon Valley can address a lot of that. And it comes about by essentially policies. When you look at Europe, they have rolled out the GDPR, which is data protection, because in this country we still don't have that. There was a couple years back, the laptop from my doctor's office was stolen, and all our data was gone, and we just got a standard letter from them. But now we got to roll out significant policies to see how we can protect data, because our data is very important. We got to understand the privacy consequences of violating that, right? So that's the opportunity we have, because the moment we roll out a policy like that, it leads to an amazing amount of opportunity for the startups here, because based upon policy, they can roll out solutions, they can roll out technology that will not only impact here us in Silicon Valley, but it will trickle across in every part of the world, because that's what Silicon Valley does. So that's the tremendous opportunity we have.
Wow, so that's wonderful. What is one of the first things that you see happening once you get into Congress?
It's all about getting things done, and I would like to pick a couple challenges, which is what I did in Saratoga, focused on crime. And we had an issue with super high water bills with a private investor-owned utility company. And when I look at my first term in Congress, it will be to focus on quality of life challenges. What are some of the core issues that are impacting people? And I'll tell you plain and simple, 165 people leaving Silicon Valley in 2017, 2018 data. So where is that taking per month? Where is that taking Silicon Valley if that continues to happen? And I think we need to fix that. We need to fix the quality of life, see how we can have people still live here, provide the ability of employers to find great technology skills right here in Silicon Valley. And that's really something that I believe should be focused upon.
Yeah, and one other area is the service-based profession, like our firefighters, our policemen and women who serve a certain community, but they can't afford to live in the city because of the high prices of rent and whatever there is. Is there a possibility that potentially there could be housing or something for these families that can, that serve our communities, that they can at least live close by to work, not that a firefighter has to drive from 3 cities or 5 cities across, or an hour drive to come and serve another community just for a paycheck. It's so I think something like that would eliminate the process of doing it for a job, but really because any firefighter you talk to, any service person you talk to, they joined their service because of their passion. They were driven to it and they want to do that. So it's like helping people stay in what they really wanted to do. Like you were saying that you wanted to serve, so you step in and now you've come to this platform of running for Congress, and there are many people like that, and then they have got children to feed and homes to take care of, and they can't afford rent. So housing issues.
Housing is definitely a challenge, and how do we fix that? So essentially, we need to have the corporate high tech of Silicon Valley participating in
Yes.
that problem resolution. So one, for example, they could be actually building housing pretty close to their corporate headquarters or their locations, different locations here in Silicon Valley. But as part of that, which is actually catering to their employees, and now their young families who are coming in here and they are struggling with housing have the ability to find housing on campus perhaps. But then there is a percentage of that housing which is now dedicated for our firefighters, for our police officers. And that's how we can there has to be a close synergy between the Silicon Valley high tech and to address some of the challenges going on.
Yeah, I think this is a very important factor, because we're all somehow in this web, and it impacts all of us. So that's, I think, something that really people want to have a voice for and to be heard. And so yeah, you're up for a good place. So you do need all that energy. So you didn't tell me, what do you eat for your energy?
Drink a lot of water.
Okay, drink lots of water. Yeah, this is really wonderful. So the city of Saratoga is supporting you, and how else do you think that people can support you?
Well, they can visit my website, rishikumar.com, and check out some of my platforms, some of my ideas. And we are running a pretty good campaign. And last year, when we were running for re-election, we knocked on every single door in Saratoga. That had likely never happened in 60 years of Saratoga, because the hillsides was very hard, and we knocked on doors and people said, oh, we have never seen anybody show up here ever in 45 years I've lived here. And so we believe in getting those conversations, because when I gather those inputs from the field, when we are out there knocking and meeting neighbors, we are basically enriching our platform in terms of addressing their needs. And that's the reason why we took up two of the biggest challenges in my first term, and we actually created some good results around that. So that's exactly what we would like to do here, running this congressional campaign, and we invite everybody in Silicon Valley to join this campaign, a campaign that is running a very strong messaging about innovation, about making things happen here in Silicon Valley in a very, very positive way, and addressing some of the core challenges. I invite everybody to join our campaign team at rishikumar.com.
Yes, I encourage people to go to your website, rishikumar.com. And also, is there ways that they can get involved in I noticed that there was something about youth in your program. What is that about?
Correct. So we actually have a fellowship program, and this is nothing new, because when I first became a council member, was elected as a council member, we rolled out an internship program. At any given point of time, we would have 30, 35 interns, and they were constantly working on different areas, whether it was social media or designing a flyer or just doing a research on cell phone towers. This is how we empower the youth. So we have rolled out a fellowship program, which is actually going to be bigger than our internship program as a council member. And we already have signups. You can go to my website, rishikumar.com/fellowship. And a lot of the high school and college students are enrolling. In fact, we have a student from Ann Arbor who's actually going to be here spending the summer with us, and she's going to be working in the social media. There are quite a few areas of opportunities, whether it's video and media arts, social media, or even political strategy, policy making, writing out position papers. So the opportunity is there, and we really need the young talent, the energy to also go door to door. So it's going to be a good story that will play out this summer.
Wow, that's quite an undertaking. And how many students are you, or youth are you looking for? How many to come in and volunteer, or is it internship, or what is it? What would you call it?
Yes, it's like an internship,
Uh-huh.
and it's a volunteer program, and we suspect we'll have 100 or so, or perhaps more.
That's wonderful, and to have that those young minds involved and running things that is the adults can't figure out yet.
I'll
That's
tell you, Geeta,
exactly what we need.
that experience makes really good essays for college, and also it helps me write some pretty good recommendation letters too.
Oh, that's very good.
I've written quite a few. Like we had two of my interns, Isha and Rohan Mehrotra, twins. They actually worked with the Neighborhood Safety Watch program, and one of them ends up in MIT, the other one ends up in Stanford. So I've been blessed to have some very brilliant interns who have been part of my team.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Congratulations. You're doing a great job of getting out there and doing things that are a little different. That's so any final words you have? We have about a minute left, so if you want to share something that's close to your heart.
Well, I think it was a life-changing experience for me to be a community activist. And it was all about when I saw something wrong, I couldn't just stand aside and watch. And it made me a much more happier person. So sometimes, when we engage with very specific issues that we are observing in the community, we will find that we are totally empowering ourselves. And it leads to a transformation, because as a high-tech geek, I could barely stand in front of a room of people and talk. And now, when we had Senator Bernie Sanders was here in 2016, they put me in front to introduce Senator Sanders in front of 5,000 people at the Santa Clara Fairgrounds. That was a big moment of my life, but it was really an evolution and transformation that happened over many, many years, because all I wanted to do was help people.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, Mr. Rishi Kumar, thank you so much for being here with us today. It's an honor to speak to you, and I'm delighted that we got a chance to chat. So if people are interested in learning more about Rishi Kumar, you can go to www.rishikumar.com. And thank you for watching.
Thank you, Geeta.